Hey guys, Palsteron here, and today let's talk about the update for my Warpath Void Knight. As I said yesterday, I was starting out with Hammer Throw, and oh boy, it has been even better because of some circumstances and some items they introduced than I envisioned. So I did 2 test runs before, and both were not even close to what it was this time. Hammer Throw early on is just completely ridiculous, and it obliterates everything. Towards mid-game, roundabout level 60, 70, it was like serviceable, right? It was nothing crazy, but it did the job. And it let me farm enough to respec into Void Knight Warpath. And that's also something we're going to talk about. So basically a few things that I noticed while leveling if you're just starting out, but after that, everything about Warpath and Spin to Win. As for leveling, not much changed. I already pointed that out in the last video, but I'll link the planner down below again for the leveling. The only thing that changed, that is the only thing, is that they introduced a new modifier from champions that I wasn't aware of, which is the 100% of bleed chance converted to ignite chance and fire damage over time hybrid. These drop from these champion mobs, which are these harder rares that you will encounter throughout the campaign, and you will encounter them even more later. But what I want to say is this mod right here is just amazing. Now I will go, this basically I hovered over all my gear. This is the gear that I had at the end before I respec'd into Warpath. So I'll quickly show you that while I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to talk over it a little bit. Now, this axe, right, basically makes it so that you can just, I don't know, scale elemental damage over time. You don't have to like swap between fizz and fire. You don't have to have weird scaling. Usually elemental damage over time has better scaling. You get more of it than just damage over time. But yeah, as you can see, very rudimentary gear. One thing I will definitely say is that once you get to maps, you definitely want to do those tombs for the crazy idols you're going to get. You get like 23 res for a 1x2. Which is kind of unheard of in the game. Other than that, there's really nothing special. The passive tree is very similar. I guess the only change that I've made is since I got one of these conversion weapons, which are, by the way, very common, you actually want to go for the fire shred right here a little bit earlier. All right, so I'll quickly show you some gameplay. I'm currently 160 corruption. I just killed my second Harvey, right? So just grinding out everything right now. I think I'm on Circle of Fortune, I'm like level 8 right now. So I got the twice as likely to have legendary potential, really nice. More tier 7 affixes, all the good stuff, empowered monos, yada yada. Let's do a cemetery real quick. So all you have to know is this is basically mana stack Warpath on a Void Knight, and everything here revolves around, if you watched the last video, revolves around this one node right here. I want to make this clear. You only put 1 point into Warrior's Fury. You get damage per second, area per second, and your mana cost increases per second. So the more mana you have, the more you can stack this up. But there's also a cheat where basically whenever a Devouring Orb expires, you get a Void Essence. And that Void Essence works with the Void Knight's point right here, Void Well, which means that when you go to 0 mana, instead you go back to 30% mana if you have 3 Void Essences. So basically what happens is if you don't, this has a 3-second cooldown. If you do not consume all your mana, you go back to 0 in those 3 seconds, you will keep spinning. It recycles back to 0 up to 30%. I'll show you this statically real quickly. I'm just going to start at 300 right now because I don't want to wait until I have everything up. But yeah, so most of your situations are basically going to be you start at the top, then you go to 30, up, down, doesn't really matter. So now you're going to go to 0 and back up to 30, so that's 1 time, right? The second time is probably also going to be possible. The third time might get a little bit closer because we don't have perfect, yeah, the third time actually bricked. So currently it's like 26 seconds that I can do with the current mana I have, with the current mana region I have. I've heard from people on the test servers where this goes around about 5 times. And if you start from full mana, it's a little bit more, right? So basically what happens is you saw that the AoE goes up by quite a bit. So you start off your map like this, and I have haste on hit right now with a Quicksilver Coil, which movement speed we're going to talk about because movement speed is extremely important since movement skills take you out of the Warpath, right, which is not good. However, you can actually loot, as you saw right here, without getting out of the Warpath. Now, in general, there's no real reason to just go that ham on everything. Just be super weird about it because you don't really need that much damage anyways. It's good for AoE. Before bosses, you want to be a little bit mindful, but you can also press your anomaly a little bit. But as you can see right here, rares are just getting absolutely shredded. I'll show you a cemetery, I guess, because cemeteries at least have some tankier enemies. But yeah, in general, you don't have to stress about having this up forever. It's just something you want to maybe think about before you go to a boss. Like you can, for example, pre-stack a little bit. But in general, yeah, at the current mana that I have, very, very cozy. Now it's probably going to run out at some point. No, still not running out on the next one, but I won't let it, right? So even if it runs out and you go to 0, it will still shoot up like 0.5 seconds after. So if you just keep pressing Cyclone, you can still continue to Cyclone. There might be like 0.5 seconds where you get stuck for a little bit. But yeah, in general, extremely smooth. You can see this AoE that you're getting. But yeah, so now it's, okay, it's still going for one time. And nope, still going. Okay. Now, okay, now you saw. But I was still pressing and you saw it immediately recast again. But yeah, basically I explained how it works, right? You're ramping this up. You definitely want to get 3 points in the Quicksilver event. Super, super strong. If you have to take out points, for example, I don't have a +4 Warpath yet. So I'm not taking 1 Cyclone of War, not taking 1 Whirling Steel. But do not ever miss out on movement speed. Rather miss out on a little bit of damage. Now, one thing added to the description are filters. This is currently my last of the filters. I will link down below 3 of them. The first one is for early game. The second one is kind of for mid game, which is you're still Hammer Throw, but you want to get into Warpath and also find Warpath items. And this is the third one, which is once you transition to Warpath. And this one is not all that strict, but just so you know kind of what to look for in here, this is Volka's filter, but adjusted for a few things. The way filters work in Last Epoch, you can actually, after you import them, work on them as much as you want. You can tick something off and it's just gonna stay here, but it's not gonna be enabled. And if you want to know, for example, let's say this helmet dropped and you're like, I don't want this helmet to drop. There is if you have the filter open, which is once again, Shift F, there is a number here, 15, which means that it is visible because of rule 15. So if you work around with rule 15 here, you can actually disable the mod. So just so you know, no filter is ever perfect. This one shows still a lot of things. I will make way stricter ones in the future once I'm in end-to-end game. But yeah, if you want to work on it, there it is. Now, when to transition? The first thing I want to say is, no matter when you transition, you're probably going to do 5 to 10 times as much damage as you would have on Hammer Throw at round about level 70 to 80. I personally respect at level 79. Basically, with this gear, I didn't have the Titan Heart at the time, but everything else was round about the same. I did add the Quicksilver Coil, which is a very important part, so you actually get your movement speed up and it feels good. What I will talk about here is what I think you're gonna have so it feels similar to what I have. It doesn't mean that you can't do it before. It just means I would highly recommend looking into all of these. And yes, you can just not go for the combo yet and just not go Warrior's Fury, and you're gonna do like 1/5 of your damage. And trust me, most of the time that is still going to be more than enough. However, I felt very confident on Hammer Throw, so yeah, this is what I'm going to talk about. The first thing you need is at minimum tier 5 reduced channeling cost on your helmet. So I currently have tier 5, and if this was a tier 7, what you saw earlier, I could probably roundabout keep my Warpath up for 30% longer or so. So this is a really crazy one. Important to note, the minus mana on Warpath is not that good because the mana increases in flat amounts. So this decreased is just not anywhere as good as the percentage. So no, this is no replacement for the percentage. Later on, you're going to spend like 100 on a reset per second. And the percentage is just going to be way better because then 30% is minus 30, whereas this is pretty bad and you have to fix the LRES. Now, how can you get this helmet? Important, this one starts dropping a little bit later. It doesn't start dropping immediately. So if you're on one of the first monoliths, you're probably not going to see any. It starts roundabout level 80-ish, I would say, maybe level 90. You will see it a little bit more frequent, but it's still a rare mod. So if you're still on Hammer Throw, keep progressing. The second way and the best way is Circle of Fortune. And this is how I got my helmet that I ended up with personally. So we're quickly going to go over here. If you don't know, visit Observatory, then go here. If you're on trade, I mean, just buy one, right? Like, I don't really know too much about trade, but it should not really be a hindrance. So if you don't know how this works is you basically have these prophecies where you have to fulfill some stuff. I mean, I have a video from back in the day. I'm sure there's going to be people who have videos about it. So here you have your favor, right? Which is basically experience that you collect during your monoliths. And it gives you certain rewards if you do stuff. Down here, you can have lenses. You want reduced chance for prophecies for dungeon events and reduced chance for prophecies to have arena events. You can buy this up down there from the vendor. you go here and you reroll. And if you see exalted helmets, you go for it. You can obviously also go for other stuff, but let's just say we reroll over and over until we get exalted helmets. All right, Death of Nemesis. Those are one of the big boy rares. Exalted helm ×4. Click, right? Do this over and over. Depending on how much favor you have, you're going to get more and more exalted helmets. This way, okay, let's see. Death of rare enemies, super easy to fulfill, ×2. Okay, Monolith 280. It's probably going to take a while, but I'm going to get there eventually, so might as well pick it up. Definitely do look if you can actually fulfill whatever it wants you to do. And this way, you'll be spammed with exalted helmets. And chances are you actually get a tier 6 reduced channel cost. It is possible, right? What happened to me is I didn't get a tier 6, but I got just an exalted helmet with reduced channel cost on. And what you can do then is you can use a Rune of Havoc. Rune of Havocs are the ones here, and they basically reshuffle all those tiers. So if I use the Rune of Havoc right now on this helmet, what could happen is this tier 5 swaps with this tier 1, right? So this is now tier 1, this is tier 5 or whatever. So with that, you can easily do it. Havocs are pretty rare. I've found, I think, like 7 or 8 so far. And you can also gamble with Rune of Redemptions. I've personally not really had any success with that, but I mean, whatever you have to do, you have to do. The reason I'm talking about this so much is because this is the most important part of the build and also the hardest one to get. So Havoc Rune, Prophecies, and also Rune of Discovery if you're lucky. After that, you want the chunky mana pool. I currently have around about 700. I would say 500-ish is okay to start this version of the build with that one node that consumes that much mana. And you can get mana basically anywhere, right? So I have this Sentinel right now. I'm working on upgrading this one. But very early on, I got a good mana roll on this, so I just kept it. But later on, you're going to find exalted items with mana. My gloves have tier 6 mana, right here. Tier 7 would obviously be better. I don't think you can get it here. I don't think you can get it on rings. You can get it on body armor, right? Very, very strong. Let me put on that helmet. You can also get it on helmet, but obviously reduced channel cost is more important. And you can get it on Emmy. In terms of needle, if you don't have any of these mods like mana, attack speed, melee, void, flat damage, or crit multi, then I would probably just keep going. At some point, you're going to get it. It's not that hard to roll. Do note that it matters which tier it is. For example, this one is tier 7. So even though my second mod is completely worthless, that makes up for it. And do note that while mana is very nice early, in late game, I'm probably going to get out of it. So do not like force the mana or anything like that. And if you get like a tier 3, tier 4 mana on top of something else good, that is really strong. Now, I unfortunately did not get attack speed or flat damage on my weapon, but I did get mana, which makes it a little bit more comfy. My damage is therefore a little bit lacking though. So if you get it on a weapon, I would definitely go for it. And it's good for now, but later on, you probably want to look for something else. And also look out for these 1x1s. There is one mod that gives +2 mana and mana regen, and one that gives plus mana and +2 health, both hybrid, right? And you can get both on one. That is the GG one. If this one, instead of the health and health regen, had the second mana mod, that would be like aspirational gear, right? Like if it happens. So this one has a little bit mana regen, mana regen, and you find these one in the tombs and on the cemeteries. Also important, there is a blessing. This is from the level 75 monolith. Obviously the upgraded one gives up to 90 mana, but yeah, this one starts I think at like 30 to 50, and if you do the empowered one, up to 90. And then a little bit of mana regen is pretty nice to have. So for example, you could have it on your weapon right here. Once again, not optimal, but it is what it is. Or you could have an exalted roll on one of these unique rings that you're going to use. Then you also want a weapon with decent rolls, which is this Clotho's needle right here. And a lot of people have been asking me how you farm this. I will quickly show you. If you press Y, you get to your factions, and there are endgame factions and item factions. In the endgame factions, you want to go to the Woven. And if you go to the Heaven Silk right here, there is a merchant that sells you some of these Woven Echoes. Woven Echoes are basically unique maps, kind of, that you can place wherever you want on one of the monoliths. And if you want to buy them from the merchant, depending on your faction, you straight up can, right? So there is one here that you get very early, which is called Lost with Folly, and it lets you fight all 3 Fate Weavers. If you don't know, there are 3 different Fate Weavers at the end of these tombs, which are these mini dungeons that you see in almost every monolith. And so it's a 1 in 3 to encounter the one that can drop the needle. And if you encounter that one, you have a, I think, 1 in 3 chance to get the needle. So every tomb you go in, a 1 in 9 chance to get the sword. But if you do Lostwood Folly, it is actually a 100% to fight all of them. So you have a 1 in 3 chance. And you can buy this one for 1,000 amber, which you basically just get from killing stuff in those tombs. So with this, I basically farmed like 10 swords or so in an hour, and this was the one at the end. So don't get discouraged if a few of them suck, that's normal. And I guess for people who don't know this, you don't have to actually wear it before you can upgrade it. You will find these runes called, let me check, I think Rune of Weaving. Yeah, Rune of Weaving, once again from the tombs and from the cemeteries, that straight up just like unlock the mods. So you don't have to like wait and get XP to reveal the mods. They reveal 1 to 12. And if you use one of them and the mods already suck, you can probably throw the sword away. If they're good or at least decent, you can keep going. And the last thing here is movement speed. I'm still missing quite a bit. However, here's the deal. Exalted movement speed and implicit movement speed. Super, super important. And if you have unique boots, any sort of unique boots, for example, there is unique boots that have like 30 movement speed down there, and you have 1 LP, just get 30% or 25% movement speed from an exalted item on. And for people who do not know, since this patch, it's actually incredibly easy to get one legendary potential that you want. So first up, how do you get to this dungeon? You right-click the Temporal Sanctum, and then you go here. If you don't have this one yet, you need to do the quest so you're able to access it. And afterwards, you can go here and yeah, Temporal Sanctum. You can put a Portal Charm, which directly TPs you to the boss. After you do the boss, you can basically have a, I don't know, like a font where you put in your item and 1 exalted item. So for example, you put this item in, it has 1 legendary potential plus this one. And now you can choose one of the mods you want on here, and it's going to be on there. So for example, I could have this ring right here with the 58 lightning wrist. Just so you're aware though, you can only choose it if you do at least a tier 2 dungeon. If you do the tier 1, which you have to do for the first time, that's just unlocking tier 2, and then you have to do tier 2 to actually guarantee it. Otherwise, it's a 1 in 4. And the other movement speed that's super important is from haste. And there's 2 ways to get haste. There's a chest, which is what I used first, which you might have to as well. But honestly, this ring isn't very rare. I used the Kestrel, which gives me haste. Honestly, without haste, I would not play this build. But Quicksilver Coil is super, super common. And if you want to target farm it, you can also target farm unique rings from the Prophecy. Plus, you can gamble it with your Rune of Ascendance. I think it's like a 1 in 16 or 1 in 17 to get a Quicksilver Coil. But yeah, this one is like mandatory. It gives you haste, which is 30% movement speed. The other ring is not mandatory, but it's super easy to get. You get this one from Orobis, which is that one mini boss that you have to kill in order to get Corruption. And yeah, it's super, super, super common. Once again, movement speed, and it gives you Doom. And Doom makes it so enemies take increased melee damage. It also gives you a little bit of leech. This one is not mandatory, but nice to have. Instead of the Siphon of Anguish, you can also choose a Flames of Midnight. You only drop this one later at the Harbinger stage, but I'm thinking about it right now. It basically disables your dodge roll, but it gives you swiftness, which is up to 20% movement speed. If I find one of these with 2 legendary potential, there's a good way I'm actually going to replace this ring. Otherwise, I don't think there is too much to talk about. Just, I don't know, hybrid health, always super strong, melee attack speed. Try to be capped as well as you can. Right now, I'm super, super overcapped. My blessings are all over the place. They're completely garbage. This one mod here has been quite nice, though. I'm going to say armor while channeling. But yeah, overall, as you can see, I mean, this is like absolute trash of the trash. If you have a Jade Emmy, try to get as much melee attack speed as possible. Jade Emmy is obviously huge. And yeah, I mean, it's just kind of the body armor is probably my best piece, although it looks good, but percentage health in the implicit, this is a random one I found from a Nemesis, but if you got just percentage health, this would be 10 times better. I guess the idols are pretty important. There are 2 good modifiers. The best one, I think, is increased melee void damage up here. And the reason I think that is the echo damage doesn't really scale with your, like, you will see that your echoes actually do not scale with Warrior Sphere. So I think the echo damage might have to go eventually, but I mean, it's still decent, definitely strong. Armor is good, but melee void damage really takes the cake. It's by far the best one. You can also, here, as you can see, this you can put in the font at the end of every tomb, and you can try to roll movement speed. Movement speed is super, super strong. If you don't hit movement speed, I would just keep rerolling. And I guess if you're wondering why my spin to win looks like this is, I think, the Holy Warpath. There's also Flame Warpath. Looks pretty cool. Otherwise, I don't think too much changed. I have all of these in my planner. Like I said, just make sure that if you were Hammer Throw, respec all your Ignite stuff and whatnot into crit as soon as you can. It's going to be a big, big deal. Try to get all these up as soon as possible. If you are converting from Hammer Throw to Warpath, you can already in your last slot level a Warpath up to 20, so it's not going to be as rough of a transition. In terms of passives, pretty straightforward. We're just going for the full leech here. We're going for Void Res, Fizz, AoE. We're going for the crit multi. This one is probably the most important point on the whole tree. For every Void Knight point spec, you get 1 crit multi. Completely busted. Frailty and slow chance, all the good stuff. This one is necessary in order to sustain your mana. This one I maxed out the last, but do max it out because movement speed is godlike. And down here, this will be the next thing I'll max, which is basically a huge elemental damage reduction and a huge void damage reduction. Before that, I'm probably going to put the 10th point here into the attack speed. Also, don't forget to put 15 points into Paladin to get Symbols of Hope. A lot of people actually put points into the block here because it does get converted to parry with the Clotho's Needle. I personally feel like the endurance here with the health just helped a little bit more, but this is something you can play around with. As for skill rotation, other than your Warpath, you're not really pressing much. You're only pressing Anomaly, and this is actually quite important whenever you need the damage, right? It has 18 seconds cooldown, and it's up for, I think, 5 seconds, I want to say. Maybe 6 seconds. It's actually up for a little bit longer. Okay, so it's like 9 seconds or something. Once that's up, you can do like double damage. So look out for that. But your Devouring Orb is automatically casting. Symbols of Hope are now automatically casting. And they're also instant casting, as you can see. So they never interrupt your Warpath. Super chill gameplay. Super important on how to loot here without losing your stacks. So I'll give you an example. You bind it on 1. Pretty easy, right? So what happens is you can way easier loot, right? Because you're not losing your stacks. You can see my AoE is going up and up and up, and boom, I go by and I just click 2 times and I hit it, and so on and so forth, right? So that's pretty cool. But another thing you can do is you can actually use your left mouse button. So for example, I have it on Anomaly, and the way you do this is, for me, Anomaly is on 2. So you press up here, and then you do move or attack, and you press the 2, for example, and then it's on Anomaly. If I wanted to cast something else, then I would press 3 for Devouring Orb, but obviously you don't want that because it is autocast, right? So Anomaly is the only thing you're really pressing ever, which means that if I go to an enemy and now I left click, it is actually going to cast Anomaly, but only if there's an enemy over my cursor. And you can obviously just go right click like you usually would, but it is, at least personally to me, a lot more awkward to loot. For the Weaver tree, if you just want to copy it, here it is right now, but I'm going to tell you straight up, I don't really know what I'm doing. So I went for Arena Echoes can no longer appear. I know there's some really nice combos over there where you can get super arenas and whatnot, but I'm not interested. I absolutely hate those. So that was the first thing I went for. Then I went for Anchored Reality for extra bonus timeline stability to get to the bosses faster. But other than that, I guess a few decisions I made. So this is a socketed item drop chance. So you can put an item here and you don't actually have to put it in. It's just a copy, so you still keep the item. But here you can put reduced channel cost in, which is super strong, obviously, and it does help with the drop rate a little bit. It's like 6% drop chance on lost caches, whatever. Yeah, the rest is kind of just like pathing. Here, Woven Echo, I have the Lost Wood Folly. So this one has a chance to actually appear in your monolith, like naturally. So you don't even have to have it then, which is nice, right? That's the one, once again, that has a chance to get the Clotho's Needle. Otherwise, I went for Warden's Echo, which is kind of funny. I already dropped like multiple like dungeon boss uniques. I don't think it's actually good because it's so fast nowadays. Then I have another Woven Echo here, so another Lost Wood Folly, even more chance for it. And obviously Anchored Realities, yeah. super strong. Other than that, I'm currently experimenting with Abyssal Trap, which I don't think is very good. Extra champions. I just went for a little bit extra spawn chance, but yeah, this is by no means good, and I'll change it like 5 times. And yeah, that's about it. Once again, filters, planners, everything is down below in the description if you need to. I will be updating this build probably in a day or two, probably in 2 days, once I actually farmed up good gear, once I get to new breakpoints, once I've unlocked everything. So far, I've had an absolute blast with Last Epoch and with the build in general. Super happy with the changes they made. Seems like endgame will be quite extended, and I'm definitely gonna try Uber Aberoth, normal Aberoth, of course, as I've done last time. But yeah, can't wait to upgrade my gear over and over. Hope you guys are also having fun with the build. But yeah, look out for more updates, probably in a day or two, whenever I actually have something to say. And yeah, with that being said, since I still don't have a slogan, see you next time.